What was initially meant to be a fairy tale return has now quickly turned into a nightmare. Old Trafford's son Cristiano Ronaldo returned to his beloved club Manchester United after 13 years, but the problem, however, is that he returned to a completely unrecognizable club. How exactly did things change so drastically to the point where the club has now become a mere shadow of its former self? This is what years and years of lack of proper planning, desire for short-term fixes and success, unforgivable sporting mismanagement, and failure to deal with problems while in their infancy can do to a prestigious club such as Manchester United. Manchester United's current problems have been decades in the making, and in order to understand what is going on now, we have to first go back and take a look at what was going on during the time of Sir Alex Ferguson up until the Ralph Rangnick era. Ferguson spent 26 years at Manchester United, where he did not just build a team but built a club in the process and turned it into one of the biggest football empires ever seen. But during his final years at the club, the playing squad was already entering a massive period of decline, but because it was Ferguson, he managed to get a tune out of his players and extracted every last drop of title-winning form from them without many suspecting the impending doom the club was about to experience. In 2013, during Ferguson's farewell speech at the club, he made a statement which back then not many understood until it finally started happening. I'd also like to remind you that when we had bad times here, the club stood by me. All my staff stood by me, the players stood by me. Your job now is to stand by our new manager. He knew exactly what was coming and was proven right when the club sacked his successor only 10 months into his 6-year contract. Ferguson was in a unique position during his time at the club. Very few managers will butt heads with the owners of the club and still come out with his job intact. Ferguson was there before the Glazers. He built the club into the empire that the Glazers bought, and the long-time connection, love and respect he had with the fans, players and the club as a whole made it difficult for anyone to suppress his voice in and around the club. It was a unique position that no other manager at the club has been afforded, thus highlighting the decline of the club. The 2013 transfer window, aka the Woodward disaster, was actually the most crucial period in the club's post-Ferguson era. Ed Woodward, a man who had no knowledge on the sporting side of running the club, was made to oversee everything football related, which included transfers. And after initially promising to bring the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, newsflash, he came back 9 years after you promised, you liar, Toni Kroos, Gareth Bale, and so on. The only player he brought into the club, I can't even say it, Marouane Fellaini. A good player for Everton, and that's just it, nothing else. You could understand Moyes' helplessness in that situation, as this was his first big break into coaching a team at the status of Manchester United, and so he could not afford to be furious. But Ferguson, however, would have snapped and kicked a football boot right at the top of his eye. Sorry, just lost control there. The result was that David Moyes paid for Woodward's incompetence in the transfer window with his job. Although the current West Ham boss played a role in his own downfall by changing too much at the club and falling out with a number of senior players, the beginning of his problems came at the transfer window, which was poorly handled, and Moyes paid with his job soon after. Manchester United appointed Louis Van Gaal after an impressive run in the World Cup with the Netherlands. Van Gaal was never going to appeal to the Manchester United supporters on the long run, and if the people running the club had asked themselves this one question before his appointment, is this the style of play that we want Manchester United to be recognized with for the next 6, 7 or 8 years, then perhaps his appointment wouldn't have happened. His style of play was absolutely boring the Old Trafford supporters, and although he led them to finish in the top 4 in his first season, the second season was where everything went downhill for him. When the team is winning, no one will ever question the style of play, but when they start to lose, then you're in big trouble. Van Gaal's style of play, fallout with several players, and lack of impacts from big signings made during his tenure, all these factors played key roles in the downfall of the Dutchman. It should not be forgotten that he won the FA Cup in his final season, their first trophy since Sir Alex Ferguson left the club, but the club decided finishing in the top 4 was more important than winning English football's most prestigious cup. Van Gaal even said that winning the FA Cup was his biggest achievement in football, that coming from a manager who has won the Champions League. But the next manager would also surprisingly make the same statement, but for a completely different achievement. Now we enter the period that is responsible for what the modern day Manchester United currently looks like, and that is the era of Jose Mourinho. Here again, instead of building a team based on a playing style that the fans will enjoy and get behind, they decided to appoint Jose Mourinho. In the same summer Mourinho arrived, Pogba arrived as the world's most expensive transfer from Juventus, and the next man who needs no introduction, the greatest player of all time who doesn't need a World Cup, Champions League or a Ballon d'Or to prove it, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Mourinho's time at Manchester United would give rise to the biggest, most visible problem currently occurring at the club, and that is player power. Years after Ferguson retired, the players started to become more and more stronger to the point where the managers could no longer control them. The club's desire to continue to remain at the top of English football led to the creation of a group of individuals and not the creation of a team. When Ibrahimovic arrived at the club, he instantly demanded the number 9 shirt, which was worn by Anthony Martial, and Mourinho, without sparing a thought, decided to give him the shirt and called Martial over the phone to tell him he was going to start wearing number 11, to which the Frenchman blatantly refused, but at the end of the day, Ibrahimovic won. Zlatan always gets what Zlatan wants, that's just how it is. In Mourinho's first season, despite finishing 6th in the league, he delivered what the club's fans had always wanted, and that was silverware, as he won them both the Carabao Cup and the Europa League. In his second season, after being backed in the summer with the transfers of Victor Lindelof, Romelu Lukaku and Nemanja Matic, Mourinho would lead the club to a second-place finish as they watched their noisy neighbours Manchester City win the Premier League title with Pep Guardiola. But surprisingly, Mourinho would name this achievement as the best ever achievement in his managerial career, similar to what Van Gaal did previously. This is coming from a man who has won league titles with Chelsea and Real Madrid and even a treble with Inter Milan. There were clearly problems going on behind the scenes, and Mourinho, in classic Mourinho fashion, started to have problems with some of his players. His resentment for Martial grew, and the problems with Paul Pogba started to surface. The atmosphere at the club was perfectly summed up when January signing Alexis Sanchez claimed that after his first training session at the club, he wanted to leave. Mourinho had a fallout with Luke Shaw and reportedly told the club to sell Martial, but they refused. Everything going on with Mourinho and his players behind the scenes culminated in the 2018-19 season. Mourinho, after initially denied the chance of realistically strengthening the squad after watching Liverpool splash over £70 million on Virgil van Dijk in January, Alisson and Fabinho in the summer, and Manchester City with the likes of Aymeric Laporte in January and Riyad Mahrez in the summer, decided to voice his discontent as he mainly wanted to strengthen the central defense. He didn't get his wish, and after a string of poor and inconsistent performances, he was sacked by December, and in came the baby-faced assassin, club legend Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Solskjaer was appointed interim manager and had undone every single thing Mourinho did at the club just for the sake of short-term success, and it worked, as he was eventually given the Manchester United job on a permanent basis owing to their glorious night in Paris. But this ended up costing him his job in the long run. Mourinho, although his methods were harsh, was actually helping the players without them even realizing it. Luke Shaw, who was roasted by Mourinho in public, actually played his best football at the club before Mourinho departed, and Martial, who was heavily criticized by Mourinho, was driven by the intention of proving him wrong and started to play better too. And as Roy Keane would say, they threw him under the bus. The Manchester United players apparently stopped playing well in order to kick Mourinho out of the club, and they succeeded. They have since done exactly the same to Solskjaer, and now they're apparently, at least initially, trying to do it with Ralf Rangnick. Ole, who lacked the tactical brain that managers such as Pep Guardiola and Jose Mourinho possessed, was made to depend on his players to keep his job, and if they one day decided to turn on him, then he would lose it. And that is the point we have gotten to right now. Solskjaer made the players soft as he constantly pampered them, thereby creating a sense of entitlement amongst the squad. As Mourinho would say, I don't want to be the nice guy because the nice guy after 3 months is a puppet, and that doesn't end well. We now live in a world where players now prioritize their personal stats over that of the teams. Before, winning trophies was the primary aim for every player, but now players prefer to inflate their personal stats in order to be able to negotiate monster contracts. Before Ronaldo arrived, it was widely accepted that the club needed 3 things to win the Premier League title: a central defender to partner Harry Maguire, a right winger, and a leader to lead the squad. They got Varane from Real Madrid to take number 1 off the list, got Jadon Sancho from Dortmund for number 2, and got Cristiano Ronaldo for number 3. And now they are currently nowhere near the Premier League title. Is this any surprise? I think not. For a long time now, Manchester United have been focusing on the wrong things, and one could argue that they actually needed a central midfielder more than they needed Ronaldo. The Manchester United board decided to use the nostalgic feeling the fans would have for Ronaldo's transfer to distract them. In truth, for the fans, Ronaldo's transfer was like the return of their well-beloved and respected player, but for the hierarchy, they saw it as a commercial opportunity which would do nothing more than fill their bank accounts with a lot of money. This clash of cultures between the fans and the owners have been going on for so many years and continues to put the club in difficult situations. The entire culture has changed so much that when Ronaldo came to the club, it naturally caused disruption. For a long time, the club has been awarding mediocrity as players who don't do exceptionally well starts to get rewarded with huge contracts after having a brief run of good form. Ronaldo attempted to change something that has long been considered the norm, and the players who have been accustomed to it naturally didn't like it. The massive contract these players are on, accompanied with the media hype for the English ones, have naturally inflated their egos to the point where a player like Ronaldo, who is offering them valuable advice from his experience at the club, is now considered as a know-it. Although Ronaldo also should not be exempted from the blame, as sometimes his body language during matches when things don't go his way have not been great. And as someone who also plays football myself, nobody likes that grumpy teammate who always shouts or complains during matches. But that's how Ronaldo is, and that's how he vents out his frustrations, and I believe these players are already aware of this even before he signed for the club. Not saying it's good, but at least it shows that he cares about the club. Look, these players want to finish top 4 and maybe a semi-final exit in the Champions League. But Ronaldo, on the other hand, wants to win both the Premier League and the Champions League. Big difference in mentality over there in the dressing room. When you sack your manager and appoint someone like Rangnick who wants to change everything in the dressing room for just 6 months, of course the players would want to sabotage him and ensure he doesn't get the job on a permanent basis. And again, giving the players even more power to decide who they want and don't want as their manager. And even if they appoint Pochettino, the problems will still be there. Pochettino would unfortunately be jumping from one club's structural mess to another, and the problem comes from the board and everyone running the club. They continue to make things difficult for managers, and when they don't deliver, they get sacked and replaced, and here we go again. Ronaldo's transfer has exposed the real reason for the club's decline top to bottom, and they need to act swiftly to fix its issues before clubs like Newcastle United come to replace them in the top 6. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. Honestly, I can't express my appreciation enough. Thank you. Just thank you. Like the video and share the video, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.